Tower number 1. Tower 2. Poway, California. Pittsburgh. Auschwitz. Terezin. Warsaw. Dachau. Soberon. Treblinka. We welcome all to Shabbat at Temple Bethel, Israel. Please know that we are honored that you have come to share Shabbat with us. Our service tonight is in honor of the 6 million and more. In their honor and memory, we ask that you please turn off cell phones during this service, and that in their honor, we can be here as they cannot. Richly, brightly, dazzlingly And so tonight is not a night of long, drawn-out speeches or any such thing. This is a night to attempt to heal the broken-hearted of all faith communities, because no one and no group is immune. I invite those who are new to us or guests. The yellow sections are written for congregation to participate, as our liturgy requires that we are involved and not just watching. And so I invite you, as your comfort levels allow, to join with your Jewish cousins and your Jewish relatives and your Jewish neighbors. And I invite all of those of our community to welcome and join, because what we have learned in the last 12 candles is that hate doesn't care what the name of the building is. Tonight happens so that we never, ever truly forget. Never again, at the end of the Holocaust, was not just for the Jews. It should have been a clarion call to each and every one, regardless of faith, community, color, skin, sexual component. None of it matters at the end of a gun, because a gun doesn't care. And the person holding it to hurt us doesn't think the way they should. This is our job. Everywhere there is darkness, the darkness of fear which threatens both life and light, the darkness of hatred which smothers goodness and decency, we have been commanded to kindle lights, to kindle flames, to dispel the darkness that envelops us. Trust that darkness is not too dark for you, and the light of morning will follow the night of sorrow. One day, like people everywhere, 6 million of our people worked and had children, hoped, made plans, laughed and cried, were foolish or wise, said their prayers, loved, lost, gained, dreamed. One other day they vanished into graves they were forced to dig, or they were turned into ashes that floated upward in eternal reproach of all who breathe. Millions more like them of other folk suffered the same fate. All these we now remember. It burns, brothers, it burns. The time of anguish God forbids now burns. When the village and you in one blow turn to ashes, to flames all aglow, nothing will remain at all, just a blackened wall. And you look and you stand, each with folded hand. And you look and you stand, a burning village and land. It burns, brothers, it burns. To you alone is agony turns. If you love your town, your name, take the vessels, quench the flame, quench it with your own blood too, show what you can do. Brothers, do not look and stand, reach with folded hand. Brothers, do not look and stand, while our town burns and our land. While our town burns and our land. It burns. It burns. It burns. It burns. Brothers, it burns. It burns. It burns. It burns. Brothers, it burns. Oh, the chimneys on the ingeniously devised habitations of death. When Israel's body drifted as smoke through the air, was welcomed by a star, a chimney sweep, a star that turned black, or was it a ray of sun? The chimneys. Freedom's way for Jeremiah and Job's dust, who devised you and laid stone upon stone the road for refugees of smoke. Oh, the habitations of death invitingly appointed for the host who used to be a guest. Oh, you fingers laying the threshold like a knife between life and death. Oh, you chimneys. Oh, you fingers. And Israel's body is smoke through the air. It is our tradition to, even in moments of deepest tragedy, to offer blessings to God who brought us to this place and who even in darkness protects us and is the road. And so we praise God, sovereign of the universe, the creator of the fruit, of the vine. I know from friends who were there somehow on Shabbat with something not always discussable, not always talked about. Somehow, Kiddush was always offered. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei b'ri ha'olam, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, בשבת קודשו, ואהבהו ברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, קריאות תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים. קיבלנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. To the Jews, Shabbat marries the bride every week. We begin by inviting the bride, Shabbat, in to join with us from now till Saturday night, when we have a short service that ends Shabbat. But for us, it is this wedding weekly that matters. Once a rabbi was immured by his persecutors, where not a ray of light could reach him, so that he knew not when it was day or when it was night. Nothing tormented him so much as the thought of the pain and suffering that he and his people endured. But he said to himself, now it's Friday evening. This was always the hour when the weight of suffering was made light. On this day I will not fall victim to the tormentor, for this is the day of the Spirit, a moment in eternity when I may glimpse the messianic time. There will be peace and freedom from pain and from the burden of oppression. This is a day to conquer the forces that have conquered us, a moment when we surpass civilization. The seventh day is the conscious and our cruel struggle for existence. The truth and all kindness, peace among all people. It is the day on which we allow our independence of that which the world sheep and at the end of the war, they found a warehouse, and in that warehouse were 1,900 Torah scrolls. But in the way that Germany would do things, they were meticulous in historically placing every scroll where it belonged, where it was taken from, who held it before them. Each piece of silver was methodically listed in cataloging so that when the war was over and they won, they could set up museums to show you how the Jews and others, the gypsies, and all these subcultures, how they used to live so that people could laugh at them. And when the war was over, the joke was on Hitler. He had saved European Jewry from being lost in the cellar of history. Those Torah scrolls, all 1,900, were then repaired at the Westminster Synagogue in London, and they were then gifted temporarily to synagogues around the world that paid for their repairs and said, send it to us and we will be the repository of these Torah scrolls. And every one of the 1,900 was taken on loan. On loan. Think about that. 1,900 Torah scrolls and the silver that went with it was taken on loan from the Westminster Synagogue. Because if those communities in Europe ever reestablish themselves as a Jewish community within a community, those scrolls need to be returned to the community from which they were taken. We live in eternal hope, but we also live acknowledging not one has been returned. The communities are gone, but their history is in front of us. And so to open the ark as we go through the tefillah means prayer, and that's what this is. These are the holiest of prayers. It's the 18 benedictions. We call on Brianna Zeff, Marissa Silberman, and Michael Zeff to come open the ark. More than one generation needs to be a piece of this activity so that we all remember Adonai Sifetai Tiftach Ufi Agiti Latecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Haggadol, Hagibor HaMelach, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, V'meviyu L'ibnei B'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahav, Melech Ozer Moshiach Magin, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magin Avraham Ve'ezra Tzara, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah Rab Hoshiach, Mechayei Chaim V'chesed, Mechayei HaKol V'rachamim, Somet Nofim V'rofei Molim, U'mazir Ashurim, U'machayei V'emunato, Mishnei Alpha, Imam Givurot, U'yidom Elach, Melech Memidu Mechayeh, U'matzniach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atalach Hayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kdoshim Lecha Yom Yahalelucha Tzelah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Va'el HaKadosh. The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day God completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all the work that had been done.
God had blessed the seventh day and made it holy, and ceased from all the wicked work God had chosen to do.
You feel free to come up with her. Our children will light the first candle, but we also call on Saul and Ron Sinfeld to light candle number 2, Alan Bornstein number 3, Rich Schneebolt number 4, Lenny Epstein to light number 5, and Ellis Bromberg to light number 6.
Flame in memory of the one and a half million children who were murdered by the Nazis. They could kill their bodies, but not their souls. They're with God now, their earthly lives cut short.
How many would have been rabbis or teachers, poets or musicians? How many would have been doctors or lawyers, carpenters or builders? It is up to us to perform the mitzvot that they did not have the chance to perform.
We light the flame as we remember the countless synagogues and Torah scrolls, sacred books, and sacred objects that were destroyed and desecrated by the murderers. The Nazis thought they could kill our faith and our tradition. They thought they could kill God by destroying God's people and God's Torah. But it was only the parchment they burned. The letters flew away untouched. It is up to us to study those words and give them a life on earth once again.
We light this flame in honor of all those among our people who resisted the Nazi tyranny. They fought in the ghettos of Warsaw and Vilna. They fought in the forests of Ukraine. They knew that most of them were doomed, but they understood that evil must be resisted, that the way a person dies is as important as the way a person lives. It is up to us to resist all attempts to destroy our people and resist all attempts at the genocide of any other people.
We light this flame to remember all those who resisted the Nazis by continuing to observe Judaism. Every act of kindness, every Shabbat candle lit in secret, every Yom Kippur fast that was observed, every piece of bread refused on Pesach was an act of resistance. Every Jew who died with the Shema on his or her lips was resisting the Nazis by declaring that the Lord, God of Israel, is the true God. Only God is master over life and death. It is up to us to declare that the God of Israel is one. It is up to us to perform acts of kindness and love, to light Shabbat candles, to eat matzah on Pesach, and thus bring God's holiness back into this world.
We light this candle in honor of those righteous Gentiles who risked their lives, who sometimes lost their lives in order to save the Jewish lives. By their actions, they showed that the spirit of the human race is not dead. It is up to us to remember them and not to be bitter. May we have the courage to help others when they are in need of our assistance.
We light this flame in honor of the reborn state of Israel. Its establishment just 3 years after the closing of the death camps showed us and the world that the Jewish people is alive, that the Jewish people is eternal. Then, in 1967, Jerusalem was ours once again, and we knew that the Jewish people will never again be powerless to stop those that would destroy us.
And just before we read this section together, there are 14 more candles up here on the bima. If you lost a member of your family in the Holocaust, I invite you to come and light one of these candles. God forbid there's not enough candles. If so, please share your memory with another family as you light a candle. Please feel free. And now we join together. We have lit
6 candles, one for every million victims. We will remember them and pass on their memory to our children, to our children's children. We are the people of Israel. We are the ones who heard God's voice in silence, telling us, "Thou shalt not murder." By living as Jews, we have crucified God. By living as Jews, make me near the day when all people will know God, and we will know that all people have soul, and that the spilling of blood must come to an end.
As long as I live, till the 10th generation, till the pain disappears, till the last of my vengeance is erased by these tears. Cry, heaven, if this night of terror has passed in vain. The screams ignored, heard only by Jewish ears. Cry, heaven, if tomorrow it all, remembering nothing of all that day. As we begin to come to the conclusion of our service, we open the ark again for Aleinu. Aleinu, a Hebrew word meaning to go up. As we open the ark and look at the Torahs that bring us such love and such kindness and such stability, brings others such fear. We call on Faith Krumenacker and Toby Reddick to open the ark. Aleinu l'shabeach adon hakol, Lateidu lavlo tereshit, shelo asanu tigoyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpashot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, igor aleinu kifo hamonam, va'anaknu korim, u'misakadim u'modim, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ היום נהו ביום נהו יהיה אדוני אחד ושמע Our Kaddish prayer, our prayer for the deceased, is different. Although the words are the same, Elie Wiesel found it important to add something to it. And so, after each of the Hebrew words, there is the name of a camp, and you are encouraged to state those names. But on our yahrzeit list this week, we first mention one recently taken from us, Dorothy Wynn, longtime former member, who God blessed with 102 years. Others on our list: William Barland, Max Baum, Dr. Pauline Bender, Ruth Berg, Laurie Campbell, Gerald Cohen, Jack Director, Rose L. Fuss, Lena Gorowitz, Abe Harris, Isaac Herman, Abraham Huham, Virginia Johnston, Sidney Josen, Etta Kaiserman, Elizabeth Kimmel, William Klein, Max Mildwolf, Adele Najjar, Isidore Panfell, Martin Platt, David Pruchat, Stanley Rich, Arthur Rosenblatt, Fanny Sayowitz, Jacob Max Schneer, Samuel Schulman, Minnie Schwartz, Stanley Schwartz, Lena Seitel, Bess Selkin, Edward Stack, Irving Weiss, Henrietta Wild, Blanche Williams, and as we know, we always recite Kaddish for those who have no one to recite for them. Yit Gadal. we do the Hebrew and then insert the English. Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Robah, Ve'alma Divrach Chirutei, Ve'amlich Malchutei, V'chaye Echon V'yom Echon, V'chaye Dechal Beit Yisrael, V'agalav V'zman Kariv, V'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'olam B'nei Omayah, Yitbarach V'yishtabach Theresienstadt, V'yit Ha'ar V'yit Romam Buchenwald, V'yit Naseh V'yit Hadar, V'yit Alev V'yit Halal, Shmei Dekudsha V'richu, Le'ela, Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Da Miranda Alma, V'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom V'imrama, V'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'yakol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. There is something I would ask you to please take your seats as we come to the end. There is a challenge in a service like this to find what has meaning and what suggests that we did not lose, that we became stronger as a result. And sometimes it's hard to find words or prayers that say, we are blessed people, and that brings to us a sense of a smile, of Shabbat, and that it is, yes, our responsibility to rebuild, but that is our blessing and our avodah. The Hebrew word means work, but that's not what they're talking about. Avodah means God's work. And so, just before we get to our final song, there is something I want to play for you that says it is not in deep, deep sadness that we walk out of this place. We have been joined tonight by faith communities here, by those who put their lives on the line to protect us here, and those who minister to us in our moments of need. And for that, we need to say thank you. And we need to understand that our job is to rebuild. And that is a badge of honor that God placed in our generation. We have no right to not do our job. And so this song is out of context with what we just did, which is to touch our hearts and to bring pain and to bring anguish and to bring prayer that, oh my God, please, in spite of what it looks like out there and in spite of what these people do every day, to allow us to sit here in calm and simply pray. There is a moment of joy and of exhilaration that, yes, it is our job. It is a holy purpose that is our job. And this morning, sitting with sadness in my heart that we were going to do this service again and again, it wasn't just for us, it was for everybody. The world is on fire. And yet, in our little steeple in Port St. Lucie, we gathered together. Listen to this song. What grabbed me is not that they all know the words. They don't. It doesn't grab me that they all know the melody. Trust me, they don't. What grabbed me was that it was children this big to people who had numbers on their arms and were survivors of the camps that we spoke of tonight. You cannot be a caring, feeling human being and understand who they are who is singing and not be lifted aliyah, and not be lifted up. My deepest thanks to those of the community who reached out this one time to support our community. But they are there to support every community. And we owe them everything. And we owe those for whom we have lit a candle everything that's left. I'd like to invite all of you after this to exit through those doors and meet us in the social hall where we can join in our blessings. As we conclude this service and go meet in the back for brotherhood. Shabbat, as we know, is a miracle. The fact that the light defeats the darkness is magic. Voila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. May we go forward this day, this night, knowing that together there is nothing we cannot defeat, and the darkness is a temporary, while the light is forever. Shabbat Shalom.